We're going to begin with a huge trade in the WNBA. Breaking news here on SportsCenter. Angel Reese is on the move. The WNBA star traded today from Chicago to Atlanta for 2 first-round picks.
Reese led the Sky in double-doubles last year and is the only player in the history of the W to average at least 12 rebounds a game in a season. She did it twice in 2024 and 2025.
This is not a normal WNBA offseason. This is a power shift because some teams did not just add talent, they changed the way they want to win. And that matters more than most fans realize. Big names get headlines, but style changes win seasons. The teams that made the smartest moves are not just collecting stars. They are building matchup problems, changing pace, changing pressure, and forcing the rest of the league to adjust. And when you look at what has happened already, one thing is clear. The 2026 season could feel completely different before the draft even begins.
Moment that we have all been waiting for, and boy, did things start off with a bang. I'm sure that you've already seen the news, but it was just announced that Angel Reese has been traded from the Chicago Sky to the Atlanta Dream. Now, this is actually something that didn't surprise me. I actually didn't expect to see Angel Reese in a Chicago Sky jersey this season, especially with how her season ended last year with the Chicago Sky. There was clearly some friction between her and the franchise, and it seems like Angel Reese is very happy to be going to Atlanta.
Because this is the part casual fans miss. Offseason moves are not only about who got better on paper, they are about who actually solved something, who fixed late game creation, who added defensive versatility, who got tougher on the glass, and who made a move that looks exciting in a headline, but might create brand new problems once the season starts. So today, we are not just listing moves, we are breaking down what these changes are going to do to the balance of the league. Let's start with Chicago, because to me, Chicago just made the boldest bet in the league. They moved Angel Reese to Atlanta, then turned around and brought in Skylar Diggins, re-signed Courtney Vandersloot, added Dijonai Carrington, re-signed Azura Stevens, traded for J.C. Sheldon, and then swapped Ariel Atkins for Rickea Jackson. That is not a small adjustment. That is a full philosophical reset. What does that mean on the court? It means Chicago is moving away from building around sheer rebounding force and emotional intensity in the front court and leaning much harder into guard control, tempo, decision-making, and lineup flexibility. Reese gave them a clear identity as a physical, emotional team, but Diggins changes the center of gravity. Now the ball is going to live in the hands of an elite veteran creator. That usually means better late-game execution, cleaner spacing reads, and more accountability in half-court offense. The question is whether that makes them better right away. My read is yes, but with a ceiling. Chicago should look more organized, more deliberate, and harder to speed up, but they also may lose some chaos advantage. Reese could bend games with effort and force. Diggins bends games with timing and control. Those are two very different pressures. And in the playoffs, sometimes control wins, but sometimes raw force is the thing that cracks a game open. Now look at Atlanta, because Atlanta is the team that may have changed its emotional ceiling the most. Angel Reese gives the Dream a player who can dominate possession battles through rebounding, create extra chances, and bring a level of personality that changes the emotional temperature of games. Pair that with Atlanta re-signing Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray, Brianna Jones, Jordan Canada, and Naz Hillman, and suddenly this is a team that looks much more serious physically and mentally. My prediction is simple. Atlanta is going to become one of the most annoying teams in the league to play against. Not annoying in a gimmicky way. Annoying in the way great defensive and glass cleaning teams are annoying. You think you got the stop, and they still get another shot. You think the possession is over, and Reese changes it. You think you can relax on the weak side, and Howard punishes you. That is how tough teams are built. But Atlanta's next step will depend on discipline. Reese raises your energy floor immediately. The challenge is making sure that energy is always pointed in the right direction. If it is, Atlanta's a real threat. Now let's go to Golden State. Gabby Williams signing with the Valkyries is one of the smartest moves of the offseason because it tells me Golden State understands what expansion teams usually get wrong. Most new teams chase highlights first. Williams gives you structure first. She is one of the best defenders in the league, one of the smartest movers without the ball, and one of those players who makes everybody else's job easier. This move probably does not turn the Valkyries into a title contender overnight, but that is not the point. The point is culture. The point is habits. The point is building a team that competes every night and does not beat itself. My prediction is that Golden State will become much more respectable than casual fans expect. They may not win enough to scare the elite teams yet, but they will defend, they will fly around, and they will make more talented teams work. That matters in year 2. Now Dallas. Alana Smith to the Wings is a major basketball move, even if it does not create the biggest headlines. Smith was the 2025 Co-Defensive Player of the Year, and what makes her so valuable is that she does not just block shots. She fixes lineups, she covers mistakes, she gives you length, instincts, and mobility in the same player. That kind of player changes what a coaching staff can ask for. Guards can pressure higher, wings can gamble a little more. Help defense gets cleaner because there is a backline thinker behind it. My prediction is Dallas gets harder, smarter, and more playoff ready with this move. Maybe not glamorous, but serious teams make moves like this. Alana Smith is the kind of signing that analysts love in August because by then everybody can see what she solved in April. And then there is Phoenix, which still hangs over this whole league because the Mercury had already made a massive statement by bringing in Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali earlier in this roster reshaping. Thomas gives you one of the most unique engines in basketball, while Sabali gives you size, skill, and matchup pressure. What that means for the league is that the power race is not just about collecting stars, it is about collecting problems. Phoenix can now present multiple different problems in one night. Size, playmaking, pace changes, pressure on the glass, pressure in transition. That forces the rest of the league to answer with more than one style. And that, to me, is the biggest theme of the 2026 season. The league is becoming less predictable stylistically. Chicago is leaning into veteran guard orchestration. Atlanta is leaning into force and second-chance pressure. Golden State is leaning into defensive culture. Dallas is leaning into versatility and structure. Phoenix is leaning into multi-layered star pressure. These are not cosmetic moves. These are identity moves. So here is my big prediction. The 2026 WNBA season is going to be defined less by one dominant super team and more by matchup problems. The teams that rise will be the ones that know exactly what kind of game they want to drag you into, not just talented teams, clear teams. And right now, Chicago is the most fascinating experiment, Atlanta may be the most physically disruptive riser, Golden State may be the smartest long-term builder, Dallas may be the sneaky winner of the offseason, and Phoenix still looks like one of the biggest tests for everybody else. That is why this season matters. It is not just new faces in new jerseys. It is a fight over what winning WNBA basketball is supposed to look like next. And some of these teams are about to find out that making a move is the easy part. Making the pieces fit is where the season is really won. If you're still watching, drop League Shift in the comments.
Damn! An Angel Reese hit piece.
Sky has broken their silence about getting rid of
Angel Reese.
Where it says here, Sky players were sick of Angel Reese.
Man, oh man, this Yahoo Sports article on this whole Angel Reese debacle is insane. It is insane.
Angel Reese just got hit with the kind of report that can change everything. Because when a star leaves a team, you expect sadness, you expect frustration, you expect people to say the right things in public and move on. But that is not the word attached to Angel Reese right now. The word was relief.
Apparently, the teammates wanted nothing to do with her going forward. And to be honest, I already said that. You know, it was a lot of like anonymous sources in this, which kind of be pushing me away. But being that I've been following this, I know there's certain things in here that it was obvious to see Ariel Atkins regardless if they moved on from her too or not. She didn't want nothing to do with her. Courtney Vandersloot didn't want nothing to do with her. Bro, it was a lot going on.
And if even part of these reports are true, then this is no longer just another WNBA drama cycle. This becomes something much bigger. It becomes a question about reputation, leadership, and why Caitlin Clark keeps gaining ground, while Angel Reese keeps getting dragged into the wrong kind of headlines. Because the story coming out of Chicago is brutal. According to the source material, reports tied to coverage around the Chicago Sky painted a picture of a locker room that was not just frustrated with Angel Reese, but completely done with her. Not annoyed, not divided, done.
Exposing the organization, couldn't stand her. Locker room cancer. The locker room now doing backflips that Angel Reese is gone. The whole double-double debacle. I thought we were done with this Angel Reese to the Atlanta Dream story, but it just gets crazier and crazier the more comes out. It seems like Jeff Pagliocca was the one packing her bags himself.
The language was consistent. There was talk of apprehension, no love lost, and most importantly, relief after she was moved. Think about how strong that sounds in professional sports. Teams do not usually talk that way after moving on from a player who was still putting up big counting stats and had already become a two-time All-Star so early in her career. That is what makes this feel different. This does not sound like a normal trade. It sounds like something behind the scenes had already broken, and that is why fans are now going back and rereading everything. Because once these reports came out, moments that may have looked small during the season suddenly started looking a lot bigger. Body language on the court, teammates seeming disconnected, public frustration, veterans having to respond to situations that should have stayed internal. Even Reese's own comments about the roster started getting viewed differently.
And my goodness, wow. Her teammates were not having her anymore. They were done with her. The Chicago Sky were done with her. It's unbelievable. Yahoo Sports, Chicago Sky have officially parted ways with Angel Reese, shipping the star forward to the Atlanta Dream in exchange first-round draft picks in 2027, 2028. This reporter predicts that the Sky will be long-term winners in that trade. Uh-oh. Just about anybody can find someone with a field goal percentage in the 30s. Ooh, boy. And pads the old rebounding stats as a result. I said Chicago Sky will win more games than they won last year this upcoming year.
In the source material, one of the key points is that she publicly made it clear that Chicago needed better players and that getting great players was non-negotiable. That kind of comment might sound competitive on the surface, but inside a locker room, it can land very differently. Because once teammates feel like they are being called out in public, trust starts disappearing fast. And in a professional environment, trust matters more than headlines. Talent alone is never enough. If the room stops believing in you, everything changes. That is what makes this story so dangerous for Angel Reese. On paper, her numbers gave people an easy defense. Rebounds, double-doubles, big visibility, strong media presence. A player who always seemed to be around the action. But the source material pushes a completely different argument. It says the production was not translating into real team value the way people assumed. There are repeated claims that the numbers often made Reese look better on the stat sheet without necessarily making the team better. The criticism goes even further, arguing that low efficiency and late-game stat chasing created a growing gap between perception and actual winning impact.
Angel Reese, from the moment that she set foot in Chicago, made it clear she was bigger than the program. Made it clear she was bigger than the program. Made it clear it was her team. Made it clear. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the type of personality Angel Reese is. She made it clear she was larger. It was her team. Whereas
that is the heart of the issue. Because once a locker room starts believing that one player is playing for numbers instead of winning, resentment builds quickly. Teammates notice it, coaches notice it, opponents notice it, and eventually fans notice it too. So now the question is no longer whether Angel Reese had stats. The question is whether those stats were hiding a deeper problem. And Chicago's decision may have answered that for us, because this is the part that really stands out. According to the source material, the Sky did not move Angel Reese in some massive superstar swap. They reportedly moved her for future first-round picks. That matters. It suggests that the organization may have been less interested in maximizing short-term talent and more interested in resetting the environment entirely. That is not a normal move for a player with Angel Reese's profile. A two-time All-Star being moved that early in her career is rare enough on its own, but doing it in a way that signals long-term reset instead of immediate basketball upgrade tells you this may have been a culture decision just as much as a basketball one. And once that idea lands, the Caitlin Clark comparison becomes impossible to avoid. Because while all of this was building around Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark was doing the exact opposite. No locker room leak, no reports of teammates feeling relieved, no stories about chemistry problems swallowing the team from the inside. Instead, Caitlin Clark kept getting attached to growth. Ticket sales, TV ratings, packed arenas, national attention, a sense that wherever she goes, the entire temperature around the league rises with her. The source material leans hard into that contrast, arguing that Clark is not just producing on the floor, but changing the business and momentum of the WNBA around her. And that is what makes this story feel bigger than one trade. Because this is not just Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark in the usual debate format. This is something deeper. This is one player being associated with internal tension, while the other is being associated with external growth. One is fighting a perception problem inside the building. The other is building value everywhere she goes. That difference matters, especially in a league growing this fast. When leagues expand, they do not just choose the most talked about player. They gravitate toward the player who lifts everything around them. The player who helps teammates. The player who creates buy-in. The player who brings in eyeballs, money, energy, and belief. And right now, the source material makes the argument that Caitlin Clark is winning that battle by a mile. That does not mean Angel Reese cannot recover, but it does mean Atlanta becomes one of the biggest tests of her career. Because now, she does not just need to put up numbers. She needs to break a pattern. She needs to show that Chicago was the exception, not the rule. She needs to prove that this narrative about tension, friction, and disruption is overblown. If Atlanta works, she gets a real chance to reset the conversation. But if the same issues follow her again, then people will stop calling it bad luck and start calling it who she is. And that is where this gets uncomfortable. The source material points to a broader pattern across multiple stops and asks the question very directly. At what point does repeated instability stop looking like coincidence and start looking like consistency? That is the question hanging over Angel Reese now. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has pressure too. Huge pressure, bigger spotlight, higher expectations, more physical attention on the court, more noise around every move she makes. But the difference is what has not followed her. No reports of teammates wanting out, no sense of organizational relief, no repeated suggestion that the room works better without her. That is why this moment feels important, because maybe this leak did not expose literal hate toward Caitlin Clark in the simplest possible way. Maybe it exposed something even worse for Angel Reese. Maybe it exposed why the Clark comparison keeps getting more painful. Clark is being embraced as a player who expands the league. Reese is now being questioned as a player who may shrink the room around her. And in the modern WNBA, that gap could decide everything. This is why the story matters. Not because it is messy, not because it is dramatic, but because it may mark the point where the league's direction became impossible to ignore. One player keeps getting linked to growth, the other keeps getting linked to disruption, and if Atlanta does not change that, then this will not be remembered as one bad report. It will be remembered as the moment the entire conversation finally turned.